Hello, welcome everyone to our virtual lunch hour. We haven't seen you guys for a little while. We took a little bit of a break, but we wanted to welcome you back. We have some really special guests today that we want to bring you to really talk about a lot of the work that we've been doing and the stories behind the artwork that we've created recently with Meg and Bree. And so say hello, Meg and Bree. And so just to introduce these two lovely people, Meg Lemieur, she is an artist and activist whose artwork juxtaposes nature with the human experience while exploring the themes of social and environmental justice. Her dedication to environmental justice manifests into her visual, written, and performance art, which can be used in many ways to aid the health of the earth, humans, and all who dwell here. And Bree Barton, she is an artist and educator. She works to elevate and embodies earth worship, racial and environmental justice, and defiant celebration of life. She creates art that is a collaborative, participatory, and informative. Bree is also a writer and illustrator of Everything Dies, a coloring book about life. So welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, and we have been working with these guys for some time now. And I just want to mention too, we're live on YouTube today. And if you guys have questions or comments that you want to ask Meg and Bree, we're going to be really discussing some of the artwork that they created for us recently and how it ties into the work that we do as an organization and how you use that artwork to really center a campaign or center the work that you're doing. So we're really so lucky that we found these two and that they were able to kind of take us through this creative process. I have to say that this kind of all started out with their Waterways poster, which we're going to talk about in a second. But if you guys have questions, please put everything in the chat and I'll pop the chat up here as we're talking. And I see we have one person chiming in. Thank you so much and welcome back to our virtual lunch hour. If you'll go to the next screen, Patrick. So let's really talk about the stories behind the designs. Tell me a little bit about this picture that is up right here.
Well, again, thank you so much for having us. Meg and I have been making political illustrations and graphics together since 2016. And this picture is a photograph of us kind of in the early stages of an illustration. We are kind of doing like field research in this picture.
And it was during an artist residency that we had near Philadelphia at the Schuylkill Center for Environmental Education. It was, I think, last year or the year before.
Very cool. And so would you say that this is like the beginning of the process when you go out and do the field work and see what's out there?
Definitely. I mean, when the first major illustration that we did together is called Waterways, and it looks at kind of like a wide view of the fracking industry in our region. And it looks at all of these different facets. And when we are working on an illustration that's meant to tell a really complex story, the first thing that we do is observe and ask questions. So, we'll figure out what pieces of information need to be conveyed. And then we start, it's kind of like that's the beginning of the brainstorming process.
Nice. Yeah, and that's kind of what started this whole thing. I have one of your Waterways posters up in my office and it's so beautiful. And I think I picked it up at a conference, People versus Oil and Gas, and where I don't know if I had a chance to meet you two when I was there, but just the artwork kind of spoke for itself of what you guys are about and what you do. And so really just when we were thinking about ways that we could think about the work that we're doing and how we can illustrate that, this is like the first thing that came to my mind, the beautiful Waterways illustration. So tell us a little bit about this picture and what you guys are doing right here.
Well, this picture is Bree and I locking ourselves into my artist studio and inking the Waterways illustration. After about 6 months of going out and observing and asking questions and interviewing a lot of people, we came back and we did sketches of the whole Waterways illustration, sent the sketches back out to everybody who we interviewed to make sure that the way that we were conveying their story was accurate. Had a couple tweaks here and there, and then we came back to the studio and inked the whole thing. So you can see here that we are drawing on the same piece of paper with two very small little light boards on a drafting table. And we spend about 2 weeks every day, full like 9 to 12-hour days, just huddled around this table, inking all of these stories and re-listening to interviews and getting the stories really ingrained in our heads so that we could, convey it very well.
Yeah, and I think the next picture actually, Patrick, thank you. That's kind of a close-up of what you were describing, right, Meg?
Yeah.
That's
so, yeah, so Meg and I both met in Philly. We've lived there for the last 10 years. I'm just on the other side of the river now. And Meg had been doing organizing work against fracking for 8 years prior to this. And when we met, we both were feeling a pretty strong sense of urgency around water rights and how environmental issues and racial issues overlap. And so, all of you, like, we were seeing this issue and how it connects people in Philly to people in rural areas. And that was something we wanted to convey. I think in this image right here, I'm inking some part of maybe Marcus Hook. It's hard to tell, but I think the next slide is the finished illustration.
Yeah, so you can see here that it seems like just a lot of stuff going on one piece of paper, but what Bree and I do, well, there's a lot of things that we do with this illustration, but one of the things we do is we go out and we do presentations and actually like interactive games with different groups of people, whether it's like college classes or organizing groups or young students or folks at a library. And we'll go through each section of this illustration and tell the stories in different ways. Bree, do you want to explain our game?
Sure, yeah. So after we created this illustration and created a banner for it.
The banner is like a huge, like 13-foot wide banner.
Right.
That you can carry around so that people can see it from far away.
Yeah, so this illustration kind of becomes the backdrop to our presentations and workshops. And we created what we call the fracking game based on this illustration, which is a role-playing game in which every participant in the workshop is given a bio and an objective that connects to one of the characters that's illustrated in this in this banner. And so then we're no longer in a workshop or a presentation, we're in a town hall meeting. And Meg and I are the facilitators, but we're also playing the mayor and a representative from a gas industry or a gas company. And the town hall meeting is being called to discuss and debate a proposed pipeline that's slated to run through the town. And so you have characters who are adamantly against this pipeline, and you have characters that are adamantly for it. And then you have characters who don't really have an opinion, but they're just worried about their family's safety and well-being, and also being concerned about paying the bills. And this really complex web that we have illustrated here suddenly becomes animated as all of these different needs and opinions and fears and desires become enmeshed with each other, as they are in any town in this area, as we all know. And it's just a really vibrant way to illustrate how complex this situation is that we're in. And it's definitely a whole lot more interesting than Meg and I talking to a crowd for 90 minutes. Yeah, it's fun. We've had like middle schoolers get really into it. We've had high schoolers like stage a mutiny and shut the town hall meeting down and then like start their own organizing efforts. We've had people use it kind of as practice to prepare for town hall meetings that they were actually going to go to. Yeah, and so.
And each, so we printed it as a banner, but it's also paper poster that you can find at our website, thewaterways.org. And each one of those paper posters comes with an 8-page booklet that goes through vignette by vignette and tells the entire story, so that you can share it with the people that you're talking to.
Yeah, and I think that that's one thing that that kind of connected to, I connected with when I first talked to you guys. You described what you do with the Waterways poster, and I, like, from the outside, it looks like just a really beautiful poster. And if you look at the booklet, just like the different vignettes that are listed and what they mean, then sometimes you don't see all of this on the screen, and or when you first look at it. And I feel like every time I look at it, I find something new that I didn't see before, which is really striking. And one of the reasons why we thought, this is something that we have to contact these people and find out like what inspired them to make this beautiful and impactful, because it's really impactful, this drawing. And then when we went to your website and we saw that, there are actually pictures on the website of the banner and you guys doing the town hall, this is such a process that is so so repeated time and time again in every community along the petrochemical system, whether you're along fracking or whether you're along a pipeline. There's going to be an opportunity for you to participate potentially in a local hearing. And so I think that this is a really creative way for people to kind of get familiar with that process and what those potential roles are of the people that are there with you in that process. And so to me, it just seems like a really creative way to bring something that's so intimidating to people, because the first time I showed up for a hearing, I was so intimidated by just all the lawyers and the people, like who was there to oppose it and who was there who was there that was for it, and why were they for it, and I think that that's what the story is kind of, they get to the heart of the motivation of why somebody would be for or against something like this. I think that's really important work.
Yeah, one of the things when we were interviewing organizers specifically in rural Pennsylvania, one of the things that they were really adamant to convey is that they said a lot of times it's like the construction workers who get vilified in this process because they are the individuals who like residents interface with, or they like they're around, they're building this infrastructure. And a lot of the organizers that we talked to said like there's an economic reality that sometimes forces people to take on jobs that are dangerous and harmful, and we need to like be really careful about vilifying them, and instead like let's be a little bit more like let's investigate this further and deeper and see really like what is at the foundation of this industry. It's people willing to make money at the cost of others' lives, and that includes fragile ecosystems, that includes residential communities, and that also includes laborers.
Yeah, and sometimes it's also to the detriment of their, health that they choose this work. So just want to recognize that. I think that that's really important. And so Lois, she says, it sounds like you create a storyboard for the drawing by role playing. So can you speak to that comment a little bit? That's Lois. She's one of our board members. Thank you so much for tuning in today, Lois.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. It's a comment, and maybe you could just speak to it. It says, it sounds like you create a storyboard for the drawing by role playing.
I think that it almost goes the other way. Like the drawing kind of creates a storyboard for our whole role-playing game that we end up playing. And we're able to, focus in on different parts of the entire illustration that create this whole story and see different aspects of it, which kind of create this large story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We also have another comment. They're talking about the workers. They have an extremely high risk of cancer, accidents. They're victims too. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, yep. And so what's let's talk a little bit about how we did the artwork that you guys made for us. And I think that's the next screen. Is kind of the start of that conversation. And so Patrick, if you'll go to the next one. Yeah, you guys came out here to Pittsburgh and visited us, and we were so happy that you were able to do that because it was a lot of fun, and I know we spent some hours on the phone ahead of time kind of thinking through the process. And I have to say, like, I had an idea in my head of what we wanted to achieve for our organization, but I didn't really know how to get there. And I feel like your experience really helped guide us in that process. And we did spend a lot of hours on the phone, kind of talking through, what our main goals are and what are some of the main things that we work on, and how we want the artwork to reflect what we're doing. As an organization. And then you guys came to visit. So what was the one thing that you noticed when you visited that maybe you didn't expect to see here?
I think it's kind of twofold for me. I don't know if I expected this or not, but I've been working with in kind of anti-fracking circles for a number of years here. And part of the reason I really wanted to come out and visit the area was for me, being physically in the area, seeing the specific places that we're going to be drawing and meeting the people who are impacted there is such a huge emotional roller coaster for me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I really care about you. And I can't believe this is happening to you too. And it's like, an extension of all of this stuff that is happening. And oh my gosh, your kids are so beautiful. And all the kids that we met that day are so beautiful. And I want them to grow up to have beautiful lives. And so I think that that's really important to me, to be able to come out and have that experience, because it informs the way that I draw. And I think another thing that hit me was just how much is going on out there. And, you know, we drove around for a day, but it was, we went from site to site to site to site to site to site to site. And it didn't take much time to get to each one. So I think I was just kind of, it was a really emotional day for me, I think. And I think that motivated me to do the best that I could do for the project.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I'm always emotional. And I definitely, I remember getting emotional a couple times that day. And I think that the one thing that you said about site to site, you know, that's just what's built already. That's not even what's proposed to be built, which is even more stunning if you think about it. Bree, what do you think? What was your, you know, kind of thing that you didn't expect to see or you know, think when you're on your trip?
Well, before our this call, I was looking through my sketchbook where I you know, that I was just taking like random furious notes over the course of our time together. And I found notes that I took when I interviewed the young people who were involved at our like breakfast. Sunday school is not the term. You had like maybe a crew of like 5 or 6 kiddos.
Yeah.
And I interviewed them, and I was asking them like, what do you love about where you live, and what are your hopes for you know, the environment, and what do you want to say to our governor? And I just remember being really surprised and moved by how like clear they like their feelings were, and how clear their messaging was, and how like they had real valid like anger and frustration and like deep love for the place too. And so yeah, that was really cool. And as a teacher, I also just like I just really appreciated the space that you all make for young people, because they are essential to this work.
Yeah, and I could tell when you first came in and you sat down and you started talking to the kids, and that's actually a couple of photos, but we can talk about this one real quick after. So you were asking them questions, and it struck me. You just like really had a connection with the kids. And then I found out that you are an educator. And I thought, oh, you know what? That totally shined through as soon as you sat down and started talking to these kids. And then we go on our tour, and you were doing this, which I thought was, I didn't realize that this is what cattails do. Do you want to talk about what you're doing in the picture? Because I was like stunned and thought it was the coolest thing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, so in this picture, I am demonstrating how much fluff is in a cattail head. It's like, it looks like it's a really dense thing, but as you like break it up, it just turns into this like never ending fuzzball. I'm pretty sure it's a seed head, but I don't want to say that and then find out that that's not how they propagate. But I'm pretty sure that that's how they do it.
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just cool. And if I welcome anyone to check it out on YouTube. There's probably 1,000 videos of the same thing, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so this is a wetland that's back in the back of the picture, and you can see the pipeline pipe. There's actually a pipeline that's running next to our local soccer fields, and this is the Mariner East pipeline that carries highly volatile gas, liquid natural gas. So liquefied gases like propane and other stuff that they're actually shipping out to Marcus Hook, where you guys, were talking in the beginning. Marcus Hook is where they're going to be exporting the gas to make plastics overseas. So these pipelines are right next to the soccer field. You can see some homes in the background, the wetlands. And, this is a pretty dangerous pipeline to be located so close to, where kids are playing. And I want to mention too, it's also really close to 2 schools that are right there within the blast radius. So, and it's that way, really across the state. There are hundreds of schools across the state that are within the blast radius of this particular pipeline. So I think that's important for people to understand that, that there's a reason why we think that this is really important, and it's really about protecting people, and the wetlands and the ecosystems that are, that are here for us to enjoy, and that, we want to make sure we preserve. So if we go to the next screen. So I like this picture. This is the 3 of us. And in the background, this is actually one of the well pads that we are currently challenging at the Environmental Hearing Board, the Draculic well pad. And this is less than a half mile from my house. So just over that hill is my housing plan. And so the thing that I actually really love about this picture, other than us in it, and just like the kind of really reminds me of the day that we spent together, which was really a day that I think, I'll never forget. And it was just a really wonderful day to spend with you two. I think one thing that that also strikes me in this picture is how overgrown this would-be pad is, because there's no pad there. And the reason why there's not a pad there is because we fought so hard. So it makes me really happy when I see all the stuff growing over the sign to the well pad, that everything's growing up over it. And it would be wonderful if things could grow up so high that you didn't see the sign to the pad. And I hope that the pad never gets built, because it'll mean more air pollution and stuff for my neighbors and people in our community. So if you go to the next screen, this is what we were talking about. So this was a really fun craft day that we had. We were actually preparing to go to Harrisburg. This happened right before everything shut down with COVID-19. So unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to go to Harrisburg, but I'm really happy that you guys had a chance to come out here and meet with us, because I think that if we wouldn't have been able to do that, the project just, would have kind of maybe been put on hold, which is really would have been really sad, because I know you guys put a lot of work and thought into it. So what, Bree, you kind of talked about, what it was like to be in this room with these young folks and, working on the Lorax hats. Meg, what was your favorite part about this event with the kids?
I don't know. They were just so energetic and excited to be participating, and I really enjoy just in general intergenerational activism and the educational aspect of simplifying some terms and trying to figure out how to include so many different different humans and ages and backgrounds. And I'm not an educator as much as Bree is. And so it's exciting for me to get to spend time with young folks and see how much that they want to be included. And it's always a good reminder for me.
Yeah. And I thought it was a lot of fun making those little Lorax hats. I actually have one in my office. I'm going to grab it. My poster fell. But this is what we made. I have one in my office. I think this was my son's. So it's just a little Lorax hat. And it was so fun because like the kids had their versions, and then afterward I looked and I was like, yeah, I think Meg or Bree might have made that one because it looked a lot more professional than the ones the kids made. But I think that it was just like, it was so neat. And when we were planning this, we about Beaver Zilla, and actually we're going to talk about that in a little bit. If we go to the next screen, now we're going to really talk about the process and what the different designs mean to us and to you guys. So this is the first one. And so just to kind of let people know, there is a big story behind this design. And so we, a couple years ago, asked the school district if we could do free air monitoring at one of the schools, which is one of the pictures in the background here. This is Level Green Elementary. And this school is going to be surrounded by 4 different well pads. And the school said no, that we couldn't do air monitoring. So do you guys want to talk about what happened next? Because of course I'm a mom, and these are kids that I know. So it really hits home with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Forgive me if I miss a part of the story, but when we were here together, hearing about this like bizarre choosing of ignorance from the school board, it hit home for me and for many reasons. But just thinking about like what a terrible like missed opportunity for the students to be able to better understand the air around them, and also like this seems dangerous to not have these here. And so I drew this thinking about the importance of monitoring air and the access to knowledge and how powerful knowledge is. And so we have a robin in a nest with a nest, and in that nest is one of the air monitors that the school should be using, as well as kind of like a cutaway of an egg with a little baby bird still cooking in the egg. And then there's a chick with a banner that says knowledge is power. And clean air for all. It's a human right, and it's deserved by all living beings.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I love the most, well, 2 things that I love the most. One, I love how you put the banner, the baby chick with the banner. Knowledge is power. That's really kind of hits home to why we wanted it in the first place. We wanted the kids to be able to, and the staff to be able to understand, if the air is poor that day, we don't go out to play that day. Maybe we, run air filters in the school that day, because this is an open air facility. Maybe we shut the windows that day. So just really trying to understand it, one of the things that the school board said was that, this is a political issue. And to me, it's not a political issue. It has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with just really having the knowledge at your fingertips to be able to make decisions about what's best for the children. And that's really all we were asking for.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a real blow to be denied that. And I think you guys captured it so beautifully here, especially, when we hear about new studies that are coming out about neural tube defects, about birth effects of fracking and the chemicals in the air. Just really the little baby bird in the egg developing really, I think, speaks very very clearly that this is something that impacts mommy, something that impacts baby, something that impacts kids. And of course, the way where they're mandated by law to be educated at the school.
Yeah.
You're on mute, Meg.
My bad. It was really mind-blowing to know that they had denied the air monitors, because just turning a blind eye doesn't mean the problem's not there. And, you're talking about the future of your community. And, yeah, that's not like protecting life. It's not caring for your own children. It's really mind-blowing. I'm glad we made this, and I hope that that it's part of a greater campaign that wins, because it needs to.
And one of the things that I really love about the images, and if we'll go to the next one, I really love the fact that these images can speak to so many different things that are going on right now. So many people are engaging in air monitoring, and so many people from different industrial sources of pollution. So right now, Pittsburgh has one of the highest asthma rates in the country. And so, there are folks in, that live in, other parts of the city of Pittsburgh and neighboring communities that still have steel mills in their backyard, are still, experiencing coke production and the impacts of that, and the air and the air to that, that's impacted from that. So this, these types of designs really speak to not just this industry, but that one in particular speaks to all kinds of, our right to clean air, and the fact that we, there are all kinds of ways that we can be impacted by poor air, and to have that knowledge is really powerful. And this is the one that Lois was talking about. This is also one of my favorites. That was the poster that fell behind me. But talk about this one a little bit, and why you decided to go with the beaver.
This was one that was stumping Meg and I both for a while. I found, so you wanted an illustration that represented the Fatur site, and with you said you wanted something that was really strong and clear, and we had been talking about what it means to be hopeful amidst disaster, and how that means sometimes ferocity is required. And we had, we'd been joking a lot about the mama bear energy of your organization, and just this ferocity. But I was doing these sketches, and Meg and I both really love salamanders and hellbenders, so I was oh, maybe it'll be a hellbender, but it just wasn't clicking. And then Meg, who was working on a different illustration, showed me a thumbnail that she had, and I was looking for it earlier, Meg, and I couldn't find it, but it was there was a giant beaver, but it was a happy beaver, and it was kind of enjoying the creek. And I made a joke that it was Beaver Zilla, and I was maybe the beaver's too big, and then the illustration became something totally different. And I was dang, I really don't know what to do with this Fatur thing. And then I was maybe we need to have like a giant beaver ripping out fracking infrastructure. And Meg was like, yes, that needs to happen. And so that's where this drawing came from. And I love that it's so loved, you know, it's one of those things where sometimes the drawings that are the hardest to give birth to become like the most rewarding and loved. So Beaver Zilla, here to stay.
Meg, do you have anything to add?
I think it's kind of a perfect, beavers, cut down trees, which, you can talk about that, but I think that, ripping up the pipelines and like cutting that up is just a great use of their superpower. And, we were talking about the Futura site with this campaign illustration, and it was a really tricky one because the site itself, it's like, should we draw that? Is that even like visually like would make sense? And I think to be able to put it into the context of this large beaver really helps, draw it all together. So yeah, illustration is a beast sometimes because you're trying to put a lot of ideas into like a visual metaphor.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes it's better to have two brains than one working on it.
Yeah, Meg, I don't know if you can see this, but I did find it on my phone. So this is the original drawing that Meg did. And I was like, Meg, this is great, but like that beaver looks kind of like Godzilla. Like maybe you could be a little less like it's about to eat those cyclists.
Yeah, I was like, but it's so cute. We need to have a large beaver in here. Beavers are so important to the wetlands of the world. And Brie was like, not for that one, honey.
Well, yeah. And I just actually learned we had, so because this site has been so terrible, we had a professional hydrogeologist look over the plans because, this is one that's notoriously bad. This particular operator, has not been able to get the groundwater that they found at the site under control, which is what has caused so many like environmental violations to state and federal laws that they're breaking. But in addition to that, when we did our this review with one of our experts recently, we found that we think that like maybe this shouldn't have been permitted in the first place because of all the wetlands that are there that they pretty much destroyed. So this, and I love that Beaver Zilla is like, not only is he destroying the pipeline, because that to me, that also connects not only with this particular site, but also with what's going on across the state with the Marina East pipeline. I mean, like, there's no doubt that pipeline has caused so much damage in the state that like it just needs to we just need to shut it down. Governor Wolf, if you ever watch this, you need to shut it down. That actually reminds me of when we were walking near the park. We saw the lieutenant governor actually walking on the trail. There's a wonderful trail near us called the Westmoreland Heritage Trail. And it will be most likely in the future, if these well paths get built, it will be polluted with air from these different well paths that are permitted in our area. And our lieutenant governor was walking towards us on the path, and my son saw him, and I said, "Oh, there's the lieutenant governor," and he was just very spontaneously wanted to tell the lieutenant governor how he felt about all the stuff that's happening, and it was interesting. He actually came over to talk to me, and I let him know that there are 12 well pads that are proposed. in this community along this beautiful path that are going to contaminate the air and water. So I felt like he should know that. It was just kind of like, I don't know, the right place at the right time, huh?
And he was there enjoying the clean air along the path, and it's like, you're part of this world too. You don't live in a bubble. Like,
That's right.
we're all in this.
Yeah, and there's a reason why he's in our community using that beautiful path, because like in Braddock, the steel mill's been out of compliance with EPA air quality standards for decades, and that's where he lives. So you'd think that he'd want to exercise near where he lives, but he chose to come to our neck of the woods, which will then be also polluted. So this is a tale that we need to tell about this whole process. Do you want to go to the next screen, Patrick? Do you guys want to talk a little bit about this one?
Sure. This is the bottom left photo is of the Beaver Run Reservoir, which we visited during our trip. And I think before we had, gone out there, I think Anne and Jillian had sent us a bunch of photos about each one of the sites. And one of the images that they sent was the pipelines that ran under Beaver Run Reservoir. And I was blown away with how many pipelines are directly under the drinking water of 130,000 residents in Westmoreland and the surrounding counties. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And so right around the reservoir, there are nine flares.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to talk about the incident that happened?
Yeah. So not just are there pipelines, but I think that the illustration really hits the nail right on the head here, because they are fracking underneath our reservoir. They are fracking the laterals. If you look at a picture of Beaver Run Reservoir with all, and I'm pretty sure we have one on our website, of all the laterals, the pathways underneath that are fracked. There are so many that, undeniably, those are pathways for, the methane and all the stuff that's been, in that shale rock for billions of years to creep up, and the water that's pushed down in there to eventually creep up. And we know that this happens. We know that methane migrates. In fact, that's why those 9 flares happened. Methane actually migrated from a fracking well that was being fracked in January of 2019 into the Utica Shale. And at 5,000 feet, one of the casings failed. And what it did was caused a loss in pressure at that well, and then an enormous amount of pressure of methane migrating and moving to 9 conventional wells at around 2,000 feet around the reservoir. So it's kind of crazy. And it was like a mile in this direction and a mile in that direction. And it's kind of crazy to think about. The methane from that one hole migrated to 9 different places around the reservoir. So how much of that methane and how much of those chemicals are migrating underneath the reservoir that they've been fracking? How much of that is going to eventually bubble up into our drinking water? And we do already see impacts into our drinking water. We see that there's an increase in total organic carbons, which could be, from the development. And some people might say, oh, well, that's not a big deal. We can filter that out. But really the moral of the story there is that you have to use different disinfectants in order to clean that water, which actually will make different disinfectant byproducts. And those disinfectant byproducts could be very harmful, especially to children and pregnant women. So these are things that people need to understand. And what I love about this picture, again, here's Mr. Beaver. He's a little smaller in this picture, but like he's telling the tale. He's telling all the animals like, hey, this is what is happening. And to me it's like they're organizing to do something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, because I feel like, just like in this image, it takes, a great amount of people of, nature fights back too, and so, um, and different types of people, and people from all different types of backgrounds. So I wanted a really diverse group of animals here, both in the water, on the land, in the sky, just all willing to protect their home. And yeah, so this was an interesting project because there are so many different facets to this story, which is why I actually replaced the sketch that I had in there before, because I thought this one was more processy. Where on the way home from coming out to the Pittsburgh area, Bree and I had a nice 6 hour long conversation about how we were going to make these illustrations, and really breaking down, what the themes are, what the messages are for each illustration. And we were trying to think like clean water is important, getting, there's like only a certain amount of clean potable water in the world. And like, this land that we're on, we're really lucky that it has a lot and we are not treating it well. And this is a prime example. So we wanted to talk about that. We wanted to talk about like how that like affects the whole, food cycle, and so much more than that. So there was a lot going on. Also, illustrating at the very bottom the shale layers there, with the holes where the laterals are going through, and they're releasing gases into the water. So there was a lot going on. So it was good to have all those elements, have it, surround the central aspect of organizing, of getting together and listening. Our little beaver has his talking stick. And they're ready. That eagle is ready to fly. And I think that the more people we're able to spread the information to and share what's actually going on, I think it'll just help us build the base of support that the movement really needs.
Bree, do you have anything to add to that? Oh, you're on mute still.
You're muted.
Still on mute.
I don't have anything to add to
that. Patrick, would you mind going to the next screen? This is one of the last images. This is one of the last big images that you guys did for us. And we're running low on time, so I want to make sure we get to all of them. But this one kind of goes back to that Lorax. We had gone to see the governor, the year prior, and we were, gearing up to go again before COVID happened. But this is one of my favorites too, because it really speaks to why our kids are getting involved, Yeah. And when I saw this, I really, I love this image. Bree, do you want to talk a little bit about this? Because I think this one was one of yours that you took on.
Yeah, like you were saying, I mean, I was also really inspired by the story of all of these young kids confronting the governor, and really like demanding that the governor takes care of the land that we all need to live. And so We Speak for the Trees is from the Lorax, and all of these animals surrounding that message, they are all cubs and kits and kids and chicks and cubs, and they are barreling ahead and showing that young people are a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and up at the top here, this is our governor.
The Governor Wolf, wolf in sheep's clothing. His little sweet sheep mascot head has fallen off, and he is he's proving to be as cowardly as they come. So yeah, it's just cool to hear the governor quaking in his boots a little bit at the sight of a bunch of tough, brilliant young minds and bodies. So
Yeah, because this actually happened. When we were in Harrisburg, a bunch of the kids, we were going up the stairs. I was in the front, so I didn't see the governors try to sneak in behind all the kids into his office, and they had told us he wasn't there. And we were up in front, asking the secretary, well, when is he going to get back? Is he going to be free? And she was like, oh no, he's not here, and trying to lie to us essentially, because the kids in the back said, well, we just saw him come up the stairs behind us and we know that he's here. So they called him out. They did. And I just think it's silly that someone with so much power would hide from children, that just wanted to talk about the story of the Lorax and how he should be doing the work to speak for the trees, the work to speak for them. I think my son told him to stop making excuses. So apparently he thought that children were threatening and he needed to hide from them. So I think that more children need to get out, and obviously there's COVID now, but children can do things to to make change. And this is a great example of how these kids did something to make change, and someone in power saw them as a threat. And if we go to the next screen, we actually have one of our last drawings. Do we want to talk about this a little bit?
Sure. This is an infographic that I created for Protect PT that tells that talks about leachate, which when fracking waste gets solidified using sawdust and stuff and gets dumped as a solid waste into landfills, and then rainwater and different water leaches through it and then gets processed through a wastewater treatment plant, dumped back into the river, and then we drink it. The problem with that, besides many things that you can read about in the infographic itself, is that that it's radioactive and you cannot process out radioactivity. And so on the very left side of this screen, you'll see the original sketch from Anne at Protect PT. And she was trying to figure out how to organize this infographic, and it was a great jumping off point. And so when I left from our visit, I went to numerous talks, both in person and virtual, about the leachate issue. A lot of different folks, along with Public Herald in Pittsburgh, are doing a lot of great work investigating that issue. And so I was able to learn a lot more about that and kind of wrap my head around it and create this infographic, which we then, you can see between the sketch and the final piece that it got switched around quite a bit, but it's great to see, how the process works.
Yeah, and you can actually request a copy of this poster. We have posters made, and Mary put the link in the chat for you. Also, I want to mention too, we have discussed this project a couple times on our virtual lunch hour. Once with Justin Noble. He's a journalist with with Rolling Stone, and he works with other news outlets as well. And so you can see that virtual lunch hour on our YouTube. Really, with this is one of the virtual lunch hour series right now. So just scroll through. We also have Dr. John Stoles talking about the real studies, like the scientific analysis that he did on the leachate at the Westmoreland Sanitary Landfill that really prompted us to start working on this project. So definitely check those things out. And if you go to the next screen, we're going to talk about the very last one, and then we're going to talk about how you guys can get your own designs, how you can order these designs and really have a piece of the artwork that we've been working on this past year. So this is the Reimagined Turtle Creek, and we're currently engaging in a Reimagined Turtle Creek Watershed and Airshed Communities Plus initiative, where we are working with others in the Turtle Creek Watershed, which spans 2 counties, Allegheny and Westmoreland County, and multiple municipalities within the 2 counties. And here's our path. This is the Turtle Creek, which is along the walking path we were talking about that the Lieutenant Governor was using. And we've got all of our wonderful creatures, doing the things that people are doing around this area, walking and biking, doing different projects. We've got some gardening over here. Do you guys have any comments about this design?
I think this is another one where there was a we were told that we were going to draw something about it, and then we walked the Westmoreland Heritage Trail, and then it was like, okay, now draw something about it, and I was like, what? So there was a lot of figuring out like what that messaging is. There's industry there, there's forest there, there's the creek, and this wonderful trail that's been reimagined, and all these activities, and how do you get that in there? And so promoting the sustainable, healthy ecosystems and being pro like this image of the world is exactly what we wanted to promote in this image. So I was excited to get to draw like this is the answer kind of illustration. It was fun.
Bree, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, this was the last site that we looked at on our tour that day. And I remember being with your family, and after a lot of really intense, heavy sites and, just facing grim statistics, it felt really great to end on this note of like, and this is why we're doing it. Like, this is a beautiful place that this community needs. And so like we face all of the hardship because we envision a future where kids can swim in the body of water that they grow up next to, and people can eat food that grows in that soil, and you can breathe the air without making you sick. It's just like, oh, right, that's why we're doing this, and that's why we'll keep doing this.
I think it was also really, it was cool to be a part of that, just walking it and hearing the stories of how much work has already gone into cleaning and restoring that area, because, you already have done so much. Your community is already so active and already so amazing. And this is just like a thank you and re-energizing and pouring more like posy vibes into that's already super vibrant and super active. And going onto the website where I learned so much about what work has already been done, I was like, wow, this community is where it's at. And it made me really proud and excited to be a part of what you're doing there.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I think that this is what we want for the future. Without all the smokestacks in the back, we want You know, we want to be able to garden. We want to be able to have clean air. We want to be able to, oh, sorry, that's coming up through my phone. Sorry about that. We want to be able to, you know, to be in the creek. And, you know, they were talking along the Westmoreland Heritage Trail. It'd be great if there was like, you know, we would be able to boat and things like that, put in a kayak. I know that there's a lot of communities where that's actually, you know, a big part of their economy. And so, you know, kind of reimagining this economy where, you know, we're able to live in harmony with the you know, with the creatures and with the ecosystems. That's really what we desire. You know, it's not about taking away something or opposing something. It's about bringing something new, and really something that's been there for longer than we have as humans. But just, you know, bringing that to the forefront of what is most important to us as humans, you know, because we can't live without water and we can't live without air. So I wanted to, we're like right over time. So I wanted to go through the next couple screens. Thank you. So if you love this artwork also, really as much as we do, you can buy some t-shirts and help support the work that we're doing. So we currently have t-shirts, which you can see here. Patrick and Kathleen. Kathleen's our environmental scientist. Patrick's the one running the slides. He's our project and outreach coordinator. We are a little team, but we pack a big punch. So if you go to the next screen, 2 more team members, Mary, who's running the chat right now. Thank you so much, Mary, as well as Annie. And she's working on our Turtle Creek Watershed and Airshed Communities Plus initiative, our newest member of our team. And if you go to the next screen, this is one of my favorites. This is our board chair, Lois, who's on the broadcast right now. We're wearing our Beaver, Zilla, and our Clean Water t-shirts. We love these t-shirts. If you go to the next screen, we also have them in youth sizes. So these are my kids. We're playing at the playground and we're wearing our t-shirts. So my son loves the Beaverzilla. That's his favorite as well. And Lily's wearing the Clean Water, although it's harder to see her in the background. But you can get all of these items if you go to the next screen. We just put out a holiday catalog and we provided the link at the bottom there for you. So you can, it's actually also on our website. So you can go to our website and browse the catalog on our website. It's under Shop Our Cause. And if you click to the next screen, this is all of the stuff. So we got posters. One just fell behind me earlier. Like this is our Beaverzilla poster. It's a nice thick poster. We put a lot of thought into, you know, making the things that we produce with the artwork because we felt like we needed to do it justice. And you guys put so much thought into making the beautiful illustrations. So all the t-shirts that we bought, we actually bought them through Coalfield Development. It's actually a Sustain You is a Coalfield Development initiative where they the business is actually a product of folks that were working in the coal fields in West Virginia and now are starting a new business and doing new different work, you know, making something else, and they use recycled materials to make the t-shirts. So it's really awesome that not only are we using something that's recycling, but we're promoting a business that will, you know, that will really, the concept of taking those workers from these dangerous positions and giving them new opportunities for employment and new opportunities for business growth. So we have all of the different designs. We've got some hoodies. We've got greeting cards. So if you want some greeting cards or stickers, we try to get an array of things, as well as a water bottle, which actually hopefully will be available by by Christmas. We're going to cross our fingers. This is actually a water bottle / it's a hot cold one. You can put your tea in there and it has a little strainer. we use this company called Eco Vessel, and this kind of speaks to really why a lot of us do what we do. So this is a company, and the gentleman that we're working with is out in Colorado, and we hadn't heard from him for a while. We realized that when we did hear from him, he had been displaced because of the fires out there. So they weren't able to reorder the water bottles on time to be able to get us the stock. So they are coming. They're going to come late, but climate change is the result of those fires that are happening out there on the other side of the country. And so it's hitting all of us. You know, we're contributing to it with with all the fossil fuel extraction in our neck of the woods, and they're feeling the brunt of climate change out on that side of the world. So I just wanted to speak to that a little bit and recognize that. And if you go to the next screen, if you like our virtual lunch hours, we are going to come back next year. So we're going to do one a month, not one a week, like we had been doing. But you know, Mary and the rest of the team puts a ton of thought into our virtual lunch hours. So please fill out our survey if you haven't, and let us know what you'd like to see in the future, because we want to bring content that's relevant to the work that we do, as well as guests like Meg and Bree that have some wonderful things to say about, you know, how we organize, how we, you know, use the power that we have as people to make the change that's needed in our communities. And I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Meg and Bree, it was so wonderful getting to know you and doing this project with you. And it really touches me to kind of, you know, to know that our journey is gonna last. Sorry, I have to laugh because I'll cry. Is gonna last, you know, for years to come with the different items that we're gonna have your artwork displayed on. So thank you guys so much for all your hard work.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing. It was a real honor to be a part of this project, and I hope we can visit each other post-COVID times.
Yes.
I look forward to seeing all of you at West.
Yes, it was a lot of fun hanging out with you guys too. Just just hanging out and having some dinner and being at the park together. And I know, you know, my kids loved it. They loved to see the artistic process and you know, talk to you guys. So thank you so much for all your hard work and your love.
Thank you.
Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.
Be safe, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.